Hey, welcome, guys. Everyone situated, have enough space? It's a long panel, but I'm sure everyone can see everyone. And yes, you're sitting in the same order as the slide, which is great.
Trying to make it easy.
All right, let's just go down the line then. Please introduce yourselves, and we're talking about the future of digital identity, so what your project is and what the relevance to digital identity is.
Yeah, since I'm holding the only microphone, I can probably start. So hey everyone, my name is Jonathan. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Favor. We're the gateway to Web3 social, which means that we are aiming to really solve that kind of next billion people onboarding issue for social by creating a good user experience and also integrating multiple protocols. So we are right now the biggest Lens protocol and recently rolled out CyberConnect and plan to roll out new protocols still this year as well. And on top of that, we've identified that the next big challenge for social is really going to be the identity part, where you need to separate the bots and the fakes and the farmers from the real high-quality users. And for that, we are now building what we call Favor Cred, so your credibility score based on your wallet assets. That's kind of the first step towards also trying to prepare for the horde of AI posting that's going to be coming, and essentially also making content meaningless. So you really need to figure out the identity and reputation part, unlike Twitter, who kind of took 2 steps back on that recently.
Hey everyone, so Suji, founder of Mass Network. So being around since 2017, we're probably the OG Web3 social network project. In the past 5 years, we've been developing and incubating, and now we start to helping by partnership and investing, and also granting new projects about social network. So one thing we noticed particularly is like a lot of people want to be decentralized. They want to just jump into the decentralized social network with the decentralized ID, but they just kind of stuck in the or two. Especially, let's see, Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, right? So one thing particularly we build is we build a bridge between Web2 and Web3. So you can stay on Twitter, Facebook, while simultaneously have your social graph transferred into whatever platform or protocol you choose. So we are backing CyberConnect, we're backing Lens, probably going to be other competitor. But I think in the long run, we just compete with Twitter, not just compete each other. And from that perspective, I think everyone will need a decentralized identity. And this thing is not going to be a very geeky thing. It's not going to be very dirty. You have to be very cute. You have to be very kawaii, like your anime girlfriend, your anime pet. They have to be grow up with you together for the next 20 years, and one day your anime pet may grow a soul, become a soulbound token. That's our approach. We think it's a long-term work. It's not going to be magically solved like 10 hours. And that's our story.
Yeah. So I'm Miguel. I work at the WorldCoin. We're building World ID, which is a really simple way to tell humans from not humans, everything else. This was really important even before with airdrops and NFTs and all these issues in Web3, and it's now even with all these AI tools becoming more and more important. So we're building this really simple tool that lets people get on board as humans, and we are actually going on the streets on dozens of countries, and it's going out there, onboarding people, teaching them what crypto is, giving them their first crypto, and registering them as system humans. Now that we have kind of solved that in a way, as we continue to expand that, we're also turning our eyes into more a more complete idea of identity. So not only a binary, are you a human or not, in an anonymous way, but also how can we maintain this anonymity and maintain what we see as proofs. So with this framework, how can we add more parts of what identity is online to all this protocol in order to make a solution that everyone can use?
Yeah, hi everybody. For those of us that didn't catch the intro, I'm Richard from Fabric, co-founder and chairman there. And so I have been around in this field long enough to remember the meme, on the internet, nobody knows you are a dog. And that was like not just pre sort of Facebook, but pre any kind of name claiming going on, you know, and it sort of created a world where everybody was not necessarily that nice to each other at that point in time. And I guess that's where it was, and the internet was arguably much less useful than it has already become. And I guess I'd like to emphasize my view, and picking up on Jonathan's point about the importance of identity in the context of effective communities, which remind us of that's arguably the superpower of Web3, and the importance of identity. If, as he put it, you're going to make meaning from content. You know, we've gone from kind of borderless and a boundless abundance of information, and to an abundance of not just opinion but expertise, so-called. And we need to understand where that has come from. Otherwise, we're going to be fucked, basically. So it's super important, but going back to what I've observed over the decades about how we get the nut cracked, I think that we're going to get increasingly used to and comfortable with biometrics forming part of the way we prove who we are. I saw a presentation at the ZK Summit in Portugal the other day about a kind of proof of person box that you might want to hop in to be able to make the link between yourself and a piece of content you're creating. I think we're going to do that on our phones, with perhaps, with iris scanning, with a bunch of different things. We're going to get over that. But I think the thing that is tricky and maybe I think is important for people and they want us to focus on is there needs to be a use case. I think trying to solve the identity problem is trying to solve the wrong problem. Let's not say that there's great firms here, but identity is central to the very intrinsically social nature of Web3. And if we're going to solve it, though, we need to work out what, for example, if you want to collect phone numbers like Zuckerberg did at Harvard, that's what you do, and you accidentally build a social platform and you accidentally create Facebook login. You don't start by creating Facebook login. So that's my thought for the moment. Get crack on the rest of the panel.
Yeah, I want to ask, because I think for those of us in the space, it may be obvious, like, oh yeah, digital identity, that is a huge problem. But I think it doesn't come naturally, or it's not that obvious to a lot of people who don't spend much time thinking about it. They think, oh, like Facebook got lame, so now I'm on Instagram. I'm not too happy with my life, but log into Instagram every day. So I want to ask what you think the specific problems are with digital identity that you're trying to solve, but I want to come at it from maybe a slightly more specific angle of, technology is advancing so rapidly, way more rapidly than our brains evolve. In terms of our evolution or our understanding of community, we're still probably thousands or tens of thousands of years ago. So what do you think are the assumptions that people bring from the physical world, or even back in the days when we lived in very small communities? What are the instinctive assumptions that people are bringing onto the internet that are causing a lot of problems?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think one key thing is obvious is sort of in the Web2, like the original physical world, your face kind of represents you. So you go to talk to someone, you can instantly see who they are. And for quite a while, kind of people have been content with kind of the Facebook and Instagram level of, okay, I see a profile picture that looks like my friend, and the profile's name is my friend's name. But it's unlike in the physical world, that could be anyone. It can be a fake bot, and kind of the more reputable you are, the more fake users there are. And there used to be a great tool called Blue Tick to separate those. But then first Elon destroyed it, and then Mark Zuckerberg followed suit. So now also Instagram Blue Tick means nothing because you can buy one. And also the cheaters and scammers can buy one. So all of a sudden, kind of, we lost this sort of, like even the last sense of connectivity between, okay, this is the real user and I trust what they're saying. And that's where Web3 can really come in. So I think blockchain and your wallet content are great ways to have interoperability to start authenticating yourself. Because it wasn't the perfect solution for Twitter either, where you probably ended up bribing a Twitter employee to get a blue tick because it was really hard to get that, especially as an individual. So that wasn't a great solution either, but $8 a month is not great either, so we need something better that kind of connects a virtual persona with a real human, just like your face and your voice connect you. And with deep fakes, even they don't connect you necessarily anymore in video, for example. So we need a new way to like replace that credibility.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the biggest problem in traditional, so-called traditional identity is there's no way to verify it. So basically, you provide a credential, like the password with the email kind of thing. You ask the people server, it's like a magic box, say, am I Suji? And the guy say, hey, yes, you're Suji, you can log in. Or you're not Suji, you're the tab, you're Satoshi. And in the physical world, you know, like when you have the passport, when you have the ID card, the foreign government and the other agency, they can't really verify. You know, that's actually the fact. That's a fact for almost 100 years. They can't verify. They just do some tricks. That, oh, this looks like the real American passport, especially now. So you again, you have the magic box. You put something in, and they might even tell you so. The first cryptography identity is dated back to the 90s when we had the PGP, you know. And the problem is that it's so nerdy, and no one really use it. And it ends up, you know, like it's only people who are doing sketchy thing online are using it. Right? So that's a problem. Like people say, hey, good people don't need this kind of thing. And if you are like a normal guy, you actually have to trust the black box, the magic box. I think that the idea today is definitely not really. That's the first time we can have some like fun stuff. You know, like a PFP. Because PFP is somehow like your public key. You can have some fun stuff, and you can have some fun stuff with your cultural identity. Then you identify yourself as a punk, so you got a punk, and you also link to your public key, and link to your, on-chain banks, right? So it has some cultural meaning, and eventually bonded to your identity. It's really similar to how the nation state is evolved today. Because we have a land, it's not called Europe or Asia, and there's different names with different language. And like, oh, we don't look alike. So we name ourselves on different nation, and then eventually become a nation state. I think it's pretty much the same thing, like, oh, the punk people and the A people are different, and they have different groups. Eventually it will be some like small city state. Maybe city state can issue those IDs. It's pretty much the same thing, like a small city like Laos. They don't have like 40K citizen, and large NFT group may have larger than what state citizen group than Laos, right? So that's a very interesting thing we have today. And in the past, we don't really have such opportunity. We have to either trust that boss or become super negative. Now we have a way two groups can really kind of blend in and actually make some difference. So that's my
Let me flip the question for Miguel and Richard, because I think you guys did a good job of establishing the importance of being able to verify humanity online. So then I think the other side of that is privacy concerns, because to verify yourself, you do have to put some data out there. So how do we approach the privacy concerns? Considering that blockchains, so far the trend has been putting data out, making more data public rather than last viewing. That's going to change in the future, and how are you guys approaching that?
Now, I was actually going to say, one of these like things that people don't really expect from Web3 coming from Web2 is just like, I don't know, if like Facebook asks you for your phone number and you get it to Facebook, sure they have it now, but like not everyone on Facebook can see that. And like in Web3, specifically, if you go from the open and with blockchains, whatever information you're putting out there for literally everyone to know. And I feel like people don't really see that. I think it seems like we have agreed that like the best way to deal with that is first of all to try to share as little as possible, and also to build systems like OrganID or we're looking at Walgreens like using similar recipes can let you at some point, like for example, prove that you're older than 18 years old or 21 without actually like revealing all of your data. And so just like allowing to give your data to a trusted party or someone like can actually like attest and have this attestation from trusted parties serve as a way to prove that you are somebody, like maybe you are human or you are older than 21 or you have a university degree without actually revealing all the public information about you. Seems like we're still like fully figuring that out, but I would personally bet like seeing all the proofs and all the like security infrastructure as the way to do that, because I mean we still want all of the code to be open, and we still want it to be decentralized, and we still want it to be verifiable. And there's like this issue with like things are either private or verifiable, and we haven't really found a way to do both, because if it's verifiable, then you need the information to verify it and to check it yourself, and then you're like making everything public. And so yeah, it seems like the best way so far is to have some trust and to have some attestations that everyone else can verify, and we'll see how it goes from there.
So first off, I have to confess to being one of those persons who paid for a blue tick. I was mainly curious what would happen if I paid for a blue tick and what came with the service. And so Richard Muir is back, but maybe I'm not Richard Muir in the first place, because I mean we haven't got anything connecting me with that blue tick with anything else. So I'll try and answer your first question and your second question, Brad. So the way we think about how thought about this at Fabric is that, back in the day, the Olympic day I'm talking about, we had, the village model. We could trust each other. We had a form of privacy that worked for us, and that we didn't care about it, or we could get behind sort of closed walls, whatever. And waves of technology, have been employed to try and scale it to the city-state. I think capitalism is the technology there to scale it around the world. And arguably, it kind of works using obviously trusted intermediaries. But now with the advent of Web3, where we don't just want to have, trust extend sort of through third parties to the world, we want to have many different sub-communities within which you can operate trustlessly and also interoperate between them. This is many orders of magnitude too great for any kind of third-party-based trust model to work. And that's not just about the rent that any third-party trust model will likely take out of it. And it's not just about the fact that people who have the third-party power might well become corrupt, although we should watch out for that. It's also because it stifles the rate of innovation. If you have to go through a third party, you've got an enormous amount of brittleness in the way you construct your modes of communication and business and society. You need much more adaptability. So I think it's like fundamentally superior to move to the trustless model that we have within Web3. And so we look to move away from the fun stuff involving PFPs per se. We look critically in the areas of finance, obviously, know your customer, anti-money laundering. If you solve that problem, that would be a boon to so many people. We're driving financial inclusivity, would stop us paying money to third parties who are just spending their time checking, passports that they can facilitate to the world. And the other area is health. If we're going to move to a level where we can pool the world's collective health data, and you know that an image scanned on one particular occasion of a certain organ has been analyzed by either an algorithm or a person you can identify, so you can rely upon that for the purposes of the research or your diagnosis, you're going to need to be able to identify it. So those are the areas that excite me. And I think, on this final point maybe about having an intermediate, I think we're looking at some of these. It's okay maybe to try some third-party trust models as we try and build this out for Web3, but I really think it's going to be much better if we keep away from those. We have networks that are networks that we can trust, to which they can attest to our identity. So we interact with them, and then they interact with another community, and so on and so forth. That's where I think innovation lies, and I think it's possible. It'd be great if WorldCoin could go in that direction as well.
I want to ask about algorithms because I think one thing we hear a lot about in terms of the promise of decentralized ideas is that you'll be able to take your social graph with you. You won't be locked into one app, one community. You'll be able to switch experiences and take your connections with you, or not lose your connections. But then another aspect is an algorithm that is determining which content you see. I mean, that can have a huge impact on your life. It can literally determine who your closest friends become. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on not just optimizing or freeing our social graphs, but optimizing algorithms for our well-being rather than for the company's well-being. Is that, do you see potential for that by decentralizing our social connections?
Yeah, I think overall kind of the ranking of content is a huge challenge. However way you look at it, kind of what's the right amount of censorship? Because we already know that zero is not the right answer for that either. There's spam, there's illegal content, there's like stuff that you need to get out of there. There's just no way around that. Every government has certain limitations wherever you go. And then beyond that, obviously, how do you rank things? The problem with the algos, so for example, Instagrams and Twitters and TikToks, is that the primary optimization is always for maximizing the amount of ad impressions you serve. It's not for users' benefit, it's not for most relevant, most interesting content, it's for maximizing the time you spend scrolling through the feed so they make more money by serving ads. And that's the only way you can access, for example, Twitter now, since they blocked the APIs. But in Web3, kind of the first thing we did when we started Favor was we partnered with Lens Protocol to keep out the control of the social graph. So from day one, we're building knowing that our users can, if our algos and our rankings and our censorship are not good for them, they can go elsewhere. And that's, I think, kind of the only way to make sure that like the companies building on top of those graphs have to keep the users in mind. So if we don't censor enough, people go elsewhere because it's mostly spam and scams. If we censor too much, they go elsewhere. If we have an algo that's purely optimized for monetization, again, somebody's gonna have a better algo. So our incentives are then to figure out what's best for the user, otherwise somebody else will figure it out if we don't have the lock-in. And I think that's gonna not only supercharge the innovation, but it's also gonna be kind of bringing a lot more sort of like ethics and sort of like concern for the user into it. Because anybody else can do a more user-friendly algo at any given point, and you can lose your users. So I think it's gonna be a hard task, but if that's the kind of step one, then everybody building on Lens and CyberConnect with Partcaster will sort of be obligated to do better than the Web2 ones have done.
All right, last question. It's a quick one. It's a question I love. All right, not even the last question. That's it. Give our panelists a hand.